Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now this pretty little puppy is the 2018 Suzuki GSXR125 and I've been lucky enough to ride this bike for the last couple of weeks. I've got to know the bike quite well and in this video I'm going to tell you the things I've learned about the bike. Not just the good things but the bad as well. So if you're interested in this machine, stick around and stay tuned. Okay, so the Suzuki GSXR125 then, a proper sports bike. Don't be put off by the fact that it's a 125. This thing looks, handles and rides just like a proper sports bike. If you're in the market for your first machine and you like the looks of sports bikes, you think that might be the way you're going to go, this is one well worth considering. That said, not everything about the bike is perfect. And I've made a little list here of some of the things I've noticed that aren't so good about the bike. So, without further ado, let me tell you what I found out. So, first thing then, first and second gear on this bike, you have to rev the absolute nuts off the machine to get the thing to go. You really have to give it the bees just to make it seem like it's moving at all. That's in first and second. So it's very long geared in the low gears. Once it's moving though, it's absolutely fine. Once you get to third, you can start to open her up and she'll quickly be up to 40, 50 miles an hour. But the first couple of gears, you really do have to thrash the pants off it. That's the first thing. Second thing, related to gears, occasionally I found when I was coming down through the box, I was missing second gear. You have to be quite positive with the box on this. Generally speaking, the gearbox is fine, but just had a few occasions over the last couple of weeks when I've been riding it, just missing second gear, not quite engaging properly. So you've got to be quite firm with the gearbox on this one. Next thing, number three, some parts of the bike I think look a bit cheapo. In particular, the top of the handlebars, the top yoke on this bike I think just doesn't do it justice. It's obviously the bike is built to a budget and there are one or two little areas that look like that, and the top yoke unfortunately is one of those areas that you're going to be looking at a lot while you're riding the bike. It's such a shame that it doesn't look good there because it's right in your field of view. It's a personal thing, not a major thing, but it's just one of the things I don't like about the bike. Okay, number four, tyres on the bike. Generally speaking, I mean these are obviously very small tyres, and generally speaking they're absolutely fine on the road, but in wet weather, and we've had a few wet days the last few days this summer, I've found they can be a little bit unforgiving. I've not had any terrible incidents, but I've just not been completely confidence inspired by these tyres. They are actually Dunlops, I believe. Let me have a look. Yeah, they're Dunlop tyres, so it's not like they're a cheap unknown brand, but I don't know what the compound is, but I think if I was to get the bike, I'd probably replace the rubber just for wet days, if nothing else. Okay, next thing, seat. It's a sports bike, so sports bikes aren't known for being comfortable, but this seat on here is really hard. If you ride the bike for more than about an hour, your bum starts to get really numb, so the seat is pretty hard. That said, and to counter that, I would say the overall riding position on the bike is quite comfortable. For a 125 it's quite roomy, and for a sports bike it's quite roomy. You can move forward and back on here quite a long way, so if you're a taller chap, you'd probably be alright, or lady. I'm only 5'8" with a 32-inch inseam. I find the bike absolutely fine, and you can move around, it is quite spacious, but the seat itself is quite hard, so that's another thing. And then last but not least, another design feature, these dimples in the tank here. They're obviously done so that you can actually, get a tighter turning circle on the bike and not trap your hands, but I just think, again, they don't look so sharp. So small point, you might think they look fine, I think they look a bit rubbish. Other bike manufacturers do it, notably things like the BMW R9T has dimples there for the same reason, as does things like the CCM Spitfire. They look particularly bad on that, like somebody's just taken a mallet to it. This is somewhere between the two. I just think it looks a bit naff. Okay, so that's it for the things I don't like about the bike. So let's not get all depressed then, because there's an awful lot of positives, a lot of things to like about this bike, and again, noted those down. So let me just run through the things that particularly impressed me about the machine. Number one is its performance. This thing, it's a 125, but it easily does 70 miles an hour. With my bulk on board, I'm nearly 13 stone. It doesn't struggle at all to reach 70 miles an hour. In fact, I've had well over 70 out of it. So for a 125, it's very performant. It's a great little bike. As I say, it's a proper sports bike. The next thing is economy. Since I've been riding this, as I say, I've been riding it for a couple of weeks, I've been averaging about 94.2 miles per gallon, and I've not been sparing the horses. I've been thrashing the pants off this bike everywhere. If you ride it conservatively, I'm pretty sure you'll get over 100 miles per gallon out of the machine. So 94.2 I've been getting, so it's very, very economic. So if you want a bike that's cheap to run, this again is one to consider. Next thing, the instrument cluster. Now I mentioned this on a previous video. If you've watched my other videos, I did an initial review of the bike. It's worth watching that video if you're interested in it, because I go through the specs and so on the bike and how it rides, so I'll put a link to that. And then I did another video about the top 5 things I love about the bike. And one of the things that I said was the instrument cluster. I'm going to mention it again because it's just so good on this bike. It's crystal clear, it's an LCD display, but it's got everything you want, including a gear position indicator and a proper fuel gauge. So I absolutely love that about the bike. The instrument cluster on this bike is not a cheap item. It's really nice, it works well, it's clear. Well done Suzuki for that. Next thing, weather protection on this. The fairing actually works a treat. When you're going along, if you are going at higher speeds and you tuck down, you've got really good weather protection on this bike. This fairing isn't just for looks, it really does work. So weather protection is great on it. While we're talking about looks, I think the overall bike, it looks like a proper GSX-R, a proper sports bike. I think they've done a great job on the styling on the bike, and it just looks fantastic, I think. Maybe not in this particular colour, I'd go for the blue race rep version, but it is a, you know, it's a nice looking little bike, I think. Oh, another thing, keyless ignition. Fancy including that on a 125 budget bike. Incredible that Suzuki have done that. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of keyless ignition, but on this, because it's kind of it's a solution to a problem that I think doesn't exist. I've never thought to myself these keys are a real pain when I've been carrying them. But this does have keyless ignition, and it does work really, really well. So well done to Suzuki for putting a premium feature on a budget bike. Next thing, brakes. The brakes on this, very simple, straightforward brakes, but they work an absolute treat. And that allied with quite sophisticated ABS again for a budget bike. This has got a Bosch system on it. The ABS works an absolute treat. The brakes on it, really, really nice. So there we go. And I guess overall, while I'm on the plus side, I mentioned earlier that it's economic to run, but I mean, overall, the economy with this bike is great. It costs £4,099 to buy. If you're going to tax it, you're looking at £19 per annum for vehicle excise duty. So again, very, very cheap in terms of ongoing running costs as well. All right, that's it for the pros and cons of the bike. So what's my overall summary? So my overall summary conclusions of the GSX-R125 then are quite straightforward. Quite simply, it's the best 125 I've ridden to date. I'm not saying I've ridden them all, but I've ridden quite a few 125s. And generally speaking, I like small bikes because you can use you know, all of their engine power. But this one is an absolute hoot to ride. It doesn't feel like it's hideously underpowered like some 125s do. It's a proper sports bike. It looks nice. It's cheap to run. It handles well. Yeah, I really, really do like this bike. And thanks very much to Suzuki UK for lending it to me. I'll be a little bit sorry to see it go back, actually. I'm quite tempted by one of these. I really am. So if you're in the market for a 125, definitely check out one of these. Okay, that's it for this time. I hope that's been of some interest to you. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Till then, this has been Mr. Fly. Cheerio.